A quickie today, as it's a download, rough cut, write, record, edit, finish and upload in one day. One upside of my not enough hours in the day self-torture is I did enjoy this view on the train home yesterday evening, but let's show you this. So I've got this rather cool new thing. It's one of those little laser leveling cubes that are a lot less expensive than you may imagine. Wonderment channel members like Paul, Rory and Ellen must be elated that I endeavour never to waste a single pound. I'm setting it up on my very stable filming tripod, and so entered something of an operational and emotional crisis centred on how I'm going to film me using my new laser thing. Wobbly footage it is then. It takes a short while to work out. There's an auto level setting, and also one where you can tell it what the level baseline is. The latter is useful as Alan is about 2 degrees tilted forward, bow down. The reason for all this suspicious nocturnal activity is this, and the culprit was the warm, nutrition-rich fishing dock water from Grimsby Dock last summer. My original plan to epoxy coat the hull and not use antifoul, anticipating occasional jet washes and hand scrubs instead, had failed. So we'll clean the barnacles and antifoul Alan. I'm working out the level at which I want to mask off a line and then antifoul below. As seems to be the done thing in the world of boaty people, I've looked at the current barnacle line, estimated that Alan will be sitting a little bit lower in the water when fully laden, and then added a bit for luck. I gather you don't want to antifoul the entire hull up to the rubber fender waist, because then it's exposed to being bashed, and it's not quite as tough as epoxy or top coat, and it doesn't like being left dry in the sun, so I've been told. Rather precious and demanding, this antifoul gubbins. Anyhow, I zoomed around the whole of Alan's circumference and marked it with a Sharpie pen where we'd mask and then paint below. Sadly, that was the entertaining bit done. I put the laser away and primed myself for the laborious sanding job. Everyone around the yard seems to be doing it right now. It's almost like yachties spend tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds on boats, purely for the flagellating weeks spent every year sanding them. But most have keels and so are higher up in the air, and so people can do this job comfortably seated or on a platform. I have to scramble underneath instead. I first got the worst of the dry barnacles off with a chisel, as I wisely took my wide scraper down south in the last carload. Forward planning at its best. Anyhow, all hellish jobs end eventually, and I added some epoxy base coats over the areas we'd done some new glasswork on. I've chosen this antifoul. It's from the same company that makes my topside 2-pack polyurethane orange paint, and it's the sort that suits slower moving hulls like Alan, and gradually exposes an active layer to the beasties in the sea that we prefer doesn't join the Alan party. First, I need to clean that lightly abraded hull with sugar soap and make sure that all the dust, muck, politicians and other contaminants are gone. This is the first single part paint that I've used, and I'm conscious that solvent-based paints like this that don't use a chemical reaction to help adhere to the surface need the best possible preparation if they're to stick on properly. This is a pretty good core training session. Then on goes the tape. Even this sort of quality painter's tape doesn't like being on there for too long. I found to my cost that anything more than a day or two, especially in the sun, can result in the tape going all stubborn, leaving residue or even bits of itself behind. This will make certain people rather cross, but I don't have the patience for roller trays today. We're just cracking on. I was a little nervous initially that I had not bought enough. 2 coats are apparently needed so it works properly, and not just so that I can't see any orange through it. On the topic of colours, yes, battleship grey it is. Antifoul choices are limited. Blue would look stupid, red would clash, white, just no, and black isn't a good idea since you can't see things easily. This grey was the least awful choice. But I had a bone to pick with the purveyors of rollers to unsuspecting roller purchasers such as myself. I presume when the company said that these rollers are solvent resistant, the solvent they're referring to is water, because sure as hell whatever's in this paint has done for this. The foam quickly grew so puffed up with its own self-importance that it fell off its plastic inner core. 5 minutes later it totally disintegrates. I ended up going through a whole pack to get the job done. Regardless, we succeeded. Alan is antifouled for the first time in his 17-year existence. I can't wait for his teenage angst to mellow somewhat, but he's Gen Z, so I doubt we'll see much improvement. And I'm saying that as a millennial. And this millennial found a solution to the rubbish prop shaft anode rope cutter combi fitting that I removed. Instead, I got us a separate pair. A very smart, and it has to be said, comically and tear-jerkingly expensive rope cutter, and an anode that can sacrifice itself without rendering the rope cutter useless. I had to chop off the end of the anode to make it fit. But good. Done. I reckon this is the right order to place them in. On the topic of expensive things, the response to buying Alan a drink has been ace, and if you'd like to help us out for the upcoming journey and stop me filming these infernal bridges, the link is where you'd expect it. Here. Oh, and I've epoxied on some extra anti-slip up top. But what's this? This will be in an upcoming episode. Bye.